Welcome back to The Whole Home. I am Kezia and we're going to talk about my word of the year because it has encouraged me so much already. It has brought so much peace to a sometimes hectic feeling life that I wanted to share it because I figured someone else would need this encouragement too. If you're new here, I'm Kezia and my goal on the internet is to make lower footprint living feel a bit less complicated and a bit more budget friendly. This is not a practical tip or trick or hack. It is more of the mindset piece, which is such a huge part of that journey. But also, I didn't pick this word specifically for that aspect of my life, but for the whole of my personal life. So this can be applied in many different places, but I hope it brings encouragement because it really has done for me in the first 6 weeks of the year. For years, I have watched people make or choose words of the year, and it's honestly a practice that has never appealed to me. It's always seemed like this quite small list of words that people would choose from, like brave or strong or courage or light. And they've always just seemed like words that would not be meaningful for my life, which is the point. They are meaningful for someone else's life. That said, about 4 years ago, we were finishing up the year, kind of just felt a word come to me that I thought I want to focus on this. And the word that year was content. And holding that word for the year really helped me in the crazy. Sometimes life feels so crazy. And for me, having a word that mattered to me, to embrace that word and to want to focus my mind on it in the hectic of life, really did shape some moments. The reason I picked the word content was because a few different things had happened through the year prior. We had been looking for a house, and when we found a house, so many people, mostly Americans, because the average house size is bigger there, but so many people said to me, that house is so small, how are you going to do that with 3 kids? For context, it's an 850 square foot house, which I think is bang on the average for England. But so many Americans said, how are you going to do that? Or what are you going to do when the kids grow up? And the house has 1 bathroom, which we all share, and 1 toilet. And so many people, again, said, how are you going to make that work? And all of people's questions were kind of shaped to make me feel like I should not be content with this amazing house that we had found. It made me realize I wanted to have that as a value, that we're not just walking through life, but that we are actively building contentedness. As I thought about it more, I realized actually so much of this journey of sustainability and of staying on budget is about choosing to be content. And we're marketed all the time with this idea that we need something else. And actually contentedness will come when we buy that thing, when we do that thing, when we have that thing, when we can afford that thing. And actually it's completely the reverse, that if we build contentedness, if we choose to be content with what we have, we won't need those things. Going through the year, it was just on my mind. And what it did was it made me see all the places that I was tempted to not be content. And not to say we should never want things, but we were first choosing to be content, and I was growing that. And there were so many places where we could then see, oh, we're being tempted not to build that contentedness, but to find it somewhere else. And having that word to hold on to helped me see how that plays out in so many places. So I loved having that word for the year. I didn't pick a word for the next year. There was honestly no word that came to me. And then at the end of last year, I began to have this feeling. It wasn't a word, but it was a feeling. And I thought, something in here is my word for the next year. And I wanted to find a word in the mix. And to me, it's a bit of a weird word that I chose. But the feelings that I was having were honestly being overwhelmed by life, being overwhelmed by having so many things, the days feeling so full, loving all of it, but things feeling hectic, a to-do list so long, we weren't getting through things. And it felt like my husband and I would have these chats about things we wanted to do better in, but then also we would just feel like we're overwhelmed. And the feeling I had that I wanted to embrace in a word for the following year was taking a deep breath and somehow feeling empowered to do the little things and let them build, to be able to bite off one bit at a time, knowing that we were building and that we could take things slowly, but that there was power in knocking out the little things. I've always been a believer in the little things, but it was not translating to my life. And so I was like, is the word small changes, small steps, believing in the journey? And I just wanted one word. So then I thought incremental change. And so the word I chose was increments. I don't know. It's not the kind of strong, fierce, brave, light thing that I've seen people choosing, but that was the word that resonated with me. And that is what matters. Increments. The word increments means one in a series of regular consecutive additions. And that is exactly what I wanted to hold on to and value through the year. It's about taking these little pieces that are not little pieces on their own, but they are increments. It's about growth, but specifically growth broken into tiny steps that build on each other. And in naming the increments, we are just actually valuing the little pieces, giving them a name, identifying them as regular consecutive pieces of growing something bigger. There's no defined size to them. They are regular, but there is no emphasis on every day or 3 times a day or anything like that, but just in valuing the small steps. And this is what I wanted to focus on for the year. So increments was my word. How has it encouraged me already? Similarly to the way that when I picked the word content, I already knew that I wanted to build that. But in the hectic, when sometimes we're just running from one thing to the other, it's easy to forget what we're trying to hone in on and to value the process of doing it and to take each situation to build towards that. So having the word content helped me remember that that was what I was aiming for in everything we did. Similarly here, even though I know it's a belief that I have, it wasn't actually playing out in everything in everyday life. And so I found myself quite often overwhelmed by big tasks or overwhelmed by goals or things we had to do because we couldn't achieve the whole thing. And so what's the point in starting? We can't achieve the whole thing, or in doing one part of it, in cleaning one little black hole corner of the house, or in getting one night's better sleep, something like that. I just found myself a bit overwhelmed and short-circuiting into not taking these small steps. And so the focus on increments has really helped me put value back on taking time for the little thing, even if I can't see how we're going to do the whole big picture. So a couple of weekends ago, my husband was out at football with my son. So I stayed behind with my girls and it was pouring with rain outside and it just was like not the most happy vibey day. But I decided, because I was focused on this word increments, it's a Saturday. I could kind of have the whole house looking fine, or I could take this time and dive into one of these things that we have needed doing. And we have had a bathroom cupboard that has been scary. When we moved in, we used it to shove boxes of things in, a lot of product that I have been gifted over the years, and it just got shoved in. And then a laundry basket went in, and then the laundry basket broke. And so everyone stopped using the laundry basket, which meant that when people needed things washing, they just put them straight into the washing machine or kept them in their rooms, and we didn't have a good system. And then that stressed me out every time we were trying to do laundry. But taking the time to mend the old one felt overwhelming to me. So I haven't done it, and Jared hasn't done it for a very long time. And so I thought, all right, I am choosing this year to place value on increments. So I took everything out of the cupboard. I composted a bunch of stuff, like paper wrapping. I recycled stuff. I threw the stuff away that needed throwing away. I took the laundry basket out. I found the screw, and it took everything in me to not kind of fudge my way through and just prop it up. I went, no. We are believing in the value of increments. We are valuing the increments this year. And it made me excited to do it because I'm putting value on those things in a way I would not have put value on. And even though it's just me valuing this, just me deciding to do this differently, putting value on the little things, is really helping with my mindset. When everyone came home, I explained the new laundry process to everyone, and it is working so well. I get so much joy when I open the cupboard. It has meant that we pick things up and put them back in the cupboard better if they belong in that cupboard. It has meant toothbrushes don't get left out on the windowsill, which I hate. Toothbrushes where people wash their hands are a pet peeve for me. Don't like that. People put their toothbrushes away. We don't have skincare bits left in our bedroom because I pull them in there at night and then, where do they really live? The space isn't, it's not functional. They all go back in there at night. Everything is a little bit tidier. The laundry is working. There are no dirty clothes in my kids' rooms. It's working. It's functional. And I would not have done that if I had not picked that word for the year. But because I am constantly thinking about valuing increments and not just, I still can't see how all the things get done. But instead of just wanting it to change, but then feeling overwhelmed, we're taking it step by step. It doesn't matter if we can't see the whole thing. And the same in the garden. And the same with sleep. I am needing more sleep than I've ever needed before in my life. But that feels like hours being taken from my weeks. And that is hard for me. And sometimes it's just impossible to sleep more. But instead of going, I don't know how this is going to happen. How do I get 8 hours each night? Look at all those hours that have gone from my week. I can't do this. Oh, wait, and now I've stayed up late and I'm not sleeping well again. I'm going, this is about increments. Every one day that we can sleep a little bit more, every little bit that we can get into bed earlier, we're celebrating. My body is thankful for every bit of extra sleep. I'm not trying to right now figure out how I get enough sleep every night and how I can organize my week for that. I don't know how that happens, but I do know that it's not all or nothing and we can value those increments. And because of that, we are consistently getting more sleep than we were. We're valuing every incremental thing we can do better, and it is helping me so much. And this also so applies to me when the world feels overwhelming. So many things can feel so overwhelming in the world, and things are constantly changing, and we have headlines, and it can so often feel like, how on earth do we play into that? And I have always been and talked here about being such a believer in small changes and how we really do need to value the small changes. And I, hands down, believe that. Small changes change us. They're part of a bigger journey. They provide conversation. They shape our communities and they lead to greater action. They also are a way of us being accountable with what we do have. Sometimes we're not able to make more than a small change, but I think as we're accountable and do well with the ability and the options that we do have to make change, that grows as our ability and our options change. And I think that's really important to grow that value of small change in us. When I first started out on this journey of sustainability, getting involved politically or with local leaders was something that felt completely overwhelming to me. It felt new and it wasn't something I felt like I could do. But I could shop a local veg box. I could support our local farmers and their organic farming practices. I could cut plastic from our food shop. I could switch to fair trade chocolate. I could talk about what I was doing. And that was incremental change, both in what I personally was doing, but also in my growth. And then I felt able to write to my leaders, write to my representatives, and say what mattered to me. I felt able to get out and take part in action and protests or different things. That felt like the next increment, and I could do that because I'd been building and just taking what I could see, taking what I was able to do and kind of using that effectively within my ability and energy and power at the time, and those things build. That is what is encouraging me at the moment. I hope that it encourages you too. If you want to stick around and watch more, YouTube is going to pop the videos right here that it thinks you would most like to watch. Hit subscribe or leave me a comment, tell me what you think, and I will see you in another video sometime soon.